Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar to launch Reboot the World, a global campaign to demonstrate that the energy transition is not only possible, but already happening. We will start with a few welcoming notes from REN21's Executive Director, Rana Adib. Then we will dig deeper in the campaign, what it is about, why we're doing it, and to also listen from 350.org, our partner, and hear from the leaders. And then we can dive into Q&A to hear your feedback and discuss. Rana, over to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hala. Thank you, Roselle. Welcome everybody also from my side. I'm actually very, very excited that we are coming together today to launch Reboot the World with Renewables. I think this has been quite an undertaking over the last month. And so for the ones of you who might not know me, my name is Rana Adib. I'm heading the Regional Secretariat here. And I'll just quickly explain you who we are, but also what brings us to this campaign. So if my colleagues could move to the next slides. I think it's clear that REN21 is the global network dedicated to renewables. Our members we have approximately 120 institutional members coming from governments, industry, science and academia, and NGOs. In addition, we have a community of 4,000 plus change makers. And I think what is really special about this global network that exists since 20 years now is the fact that it's a renewable energy community with players beyond renewables. So we have players from these different stakeholder groups, from different themes, topic, technologies, and not only the technologies, but also all economic activities around renewables, and then also representing the different governments levels. So from intergovernmental organizations, national and subnational governments, but also city and municipal governments. And I think what is special about this is the fact that we are as a result, we have really a very holistic approach, a systemic approach to renewables, and also clearly seeing the importance of renewables as driver of economic and social societal activities. So how do we drive basically building on this fabulous network action, and that's collective action? So everything is really anchored very much in this community. And then in terms of activities, we have 3 key pillars. So many of you might know REN21 from the Renewables Global States Report, Renewables in Cities Global States Report, thematic report. So this is really building on crowdsourced knowledge and data, sustainability reports. We run dialogue and debates, again, with the objective to inform and influence, but also really shift the needle. And more recently have started engaging very much into communication activities. The reality is that we clearly see that we need to win the hearts and minds, I guess, and also reach decision makers differently. And I think this is really what brings us today to reboot the world with renewables. I think to end on this, ultimately, it is really offering a platform, because we operate very much as a network of networks and not as a standalone organization. And I think this is really a platform to engage and basically build on all the activity that players are doing, but using it to really elevate this and bring those activities together to have a collective advocacy. So it's about providing data and knowledge. So evidence is important, bringing people together and telling the renewable story. And with this, I'm really excited that we finally, after some developments, are here to launch Reboot the World with Renewables, because it's very clear that that telling the renewable story is fundamental. There is a lot of misinformation and disinformation, and we clearly need to inspire and need some hope, especially these days. So with this excitement from my side, I'm looking forward to the discussion, and I'm very happy to that my colleagues Hala and Rochelle, who've been leading on this, will guide us through the next hour. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Rana. Next slides, please, Lisa. Okay, so just a bit of background on why we're doing Reboot the World. So basically, we started it's the slide before this, Lisa, please. So basically, it all started in SPIREC, the Spanish International Renewable Energy Conference, which we held in Spain in 2023. And there, basically, we started experimenting with AI and seeing how can people reimagine the world with renewables, and trying to take quotes from industry leaders, governments, all the participants, subnational actors, to create this peer-to-peer influence and inspiration. But things evolved, and we had a lot of consultations with partners and members, and we heard that what is really needed is to showcase the concrete experiences and stories that many players are doing around the world, to make them more visible. And so we basically wanted to also make sure that this is really fact-based and concrete. So we leveraged REN21's knowledge products and data, where you see a lot of snapshots of case studies happening around the world. And we started, of course, doing all the outreach in order to reach these players, develop more their stories and their narratives, understand the deep benefits that they were creating in different geographies. And we basically built the stories around them and started to create a platform to house these stories and to have them in one place where people can access them and share them, especially for the media. Next slide, please. So what's the purpose of Reboot the World? So what we want to do is really to showcase these concrete stories and voices to demonstrate that the energy transition is possible and happening, and at scale, not just in very limited community base, but different scale, industrial scale. Demand sectors are transitioning. We can see it in agriculture, we can see it in transport, in different geographies and different sectors. And this is quite important because there's a lot of, as Rana mentioned, disinformation, misinformation around renewables. Lots of narratives about them not being reliable or feasible or costly and what have you. So we really wanted to show that it's actually the benefits of renewables are wide and far-reaching and transformative. We also wanted to build this community of messengers. We have seen that there are a lot of climate champions, they are very visible, but really wanted to make visible also the renewable energy leaders, those who are making the difference in different geographies, but they're not sufficiently visible and heard. And their stories contain a lot of lessons learned. So it's really a blueprint for replication. And we wanted to also, of course, to debunk these myths around renewables. So highlighting the benefits and showing that, in the end, it is the most affordable solution, and it's what makes economic sense. We also, amidst this gloom and doom kind of environment we're living in, we wanted to create hope and a positive narrative. And it will be also a platform where we can come together, different organizations. Many are doing many good initiatives similar to this one. So how can we come together, leverage these stories, make them visible, and get these the messengers and the messengers really positioned in a way that they can influence the debate and influence other actions in other geographies. Next slide, please, Lisa. So the approach is this documenting these success stories, leveraging all the contributions from our network, our members, the case studies that are appearing from our crowdsourced data work. We want to also engage the media, so really make sure that there's increasing literacy with the media, and it is basically a demand we heard that they want that they want to kind of show more hope and positive stories in order to basically not just report on the calamities and the disasters, especially on the climate side and the rising political right and what have you. We also want to activate the voices and the stories to influence change in all the work we're doing in dialogues, convenings, policy and diplomatic moments. And we want to make sure that we are continuing to collaborate together to create this collective power, basically, to build momentum and share insights to push powerful narratives and stories. Next slide, please, Lisa. Why? I mean, the urgency is clear. We only have 5 years remaining to meet the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda and renewable energy goals. The pace, I mean, things are happening, but not at the pace that we would like to see. We need to go faster to meet the goals and to meet the Paris Agreement goals and stay below 1.5. There is a lot of, hindrances on our way, conflicts, the current political environment, fossil fuel lobbying, the whole system that we need to change. And of course, the climate disasters that are intensifying. So if we don't act now, we are facing a risk that we will miss the opportunity to leverage renewables, build secure, strong, resilient, and equitable economies and societies, while also benefiting, nature and creating a prosperous future for next generations. Next slide, please, Lisa. So things are happening, change is happening. We see that actually renewables are enabling economic growth, 7% of the growth in the global GDP in 2023. Several developing countries are shifting because of the costly electricity prices. We see a surge in solar PV uptake. We see it in Pakistan. We see it in South Africa. And globally, we see that the household share in energy investments have grown from 9 to 18% in only 8 years. In the EU, we see that renewables contributed to 47% of the power generation mix in 2024, and fossil fuels are declining by 9% to reach 29% of the total mix. Next slide. We will also hear from many players who are with us today how they've done it in Uruguay, in Panama, in the US, in the Philippines, in Kenya. Really, the breadth is very wide. People are taking action, they're creating change, and I'll leave it to them to kind of speak more to these stories. Next slide. And now Rochelle will take you through the platform, the website, where you can see, you can tap into these stories, you can contact the leaders, learn more, and share. We have narrative stories and videos, and Rochelle will talk to us more about this. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm really excited to be able to share the website with you. If you just bear with me a moment, I'm going to share my screen. and give you a little tour of the Reboot the World website. So here we are. I hope you can all see this at the Reboot the World with Renewables microsite. So we have a ton of information here to kind of explain what Reboot is all about, why renewable energy is important, how it's benefiting economies and societies and people and nature. So there's a lot of information here that you can watch, read, and unpack, and it kind of keeps going and going and going. So I think the most exciting part of this website are the stories that we get to share with you. We have 10 stories currently from renewable energy champions around the world that are doing incredible work, and I invite you to read these and watch some of the videos that accompany them that are here. Once the screen loads, there we go. Yeah, and we also have some videos from our partner organizations, including PowerShift Africa and WWF. On the frequently asked questions page, you can find a ton of information about renewable energy, why it's important, anything you might be curious about. We have a really cool slidey FAQ thing right here that you can look at. And finally, we have an About Us page where you can learn more about what Reboot the World is all about here. And most importantly, we have a page amplifying our incredible leaders that have shared their stories and are doing amazing and inspirational work around the world. So you can see we're going to be joined by them momentarily. And yeah, that's a quick tour. The link to the microsite is in the chat here, and I really invite you to check it out yourselves. Lisa, could we get the presentation back up, please? And so, we would really like to invite you as well to contribute to Reboot the World. This is a team effort, and we need your help to amplify these stories, share key messages, and the socioeconomic benefits of renewable energy. We also would like to ask you to share stories of renewable energy success, your own stories. On the website, there is a link that invites you to share your own stories with us, and we would be so happy to talk to you about it and add your stories to the website. We would also love to collaborate on Reboot the World initiatives, and we also invite you to provide feedback to help us improve our platform. Finally, on working together, we really want to leverage the power of our network and work together to ensure that these stories reach far and wide. We need to pull our resources together and ensure that we're highlighting the right stories and the right leaders, and we really can't do it without you. So without further ado, I'm going to invite Rachel from 350.org to share a few words.
Thanks so much. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Hala and Rochelle, for inviting me to speak today on behalf of 350.org. And congratulations on the launch of Reboot the World. So I'm Rachel, and I'm the Global Media Manager at 350.org. And part of my job is to work on highlighting some of the amazing renewable energy initiatives that communities are doing around the world. So for those of you who don't know, 350.org, we're a global organization that advocates for sustainable and equitable renewable energy solutions, the ending of polluting oil and gas. We also fight for systemic change. So in society that really often puts profit over people. Our work includes campaigns. We also train activists. We raise climate crisis awareness. And of course, we partner with amazing organizations like REN21 to amplify our impact and our work. So our roots have always kind of lied in community activism. And for a long time, we focused our attention on fossil fuel divestment and keeping that oil and gas in the ground. And around that, we successfully mobilized a lot of people, stopping investments in fossil fuel infrastructure and extraction. But a couple of years ago, we turned our focus to championing renewable energy. And renewable energy solutions in particular to replace those fossil fuels and render the fossil fuel industry redundant. So 2 years ago we actually started that shift towards sustainable, just people-centered renewable energy solutions. And we really realized that there is power in solutions, in showing people what is possible, fighting for the world that we want to see, a world where people can thrive, they can have clean air, secure jobs, cheaper energy, economic growth, as per REN21's data. And as we know with renewables, the benefits just go on and on. And also at 350, we believe that building affordable, safe and community-owned and centered renewable energy is an act of climate justice. So in every corner of the globe, communities that have been harmed by and also the least served by fossil fuels are coming together to build safe and cost-effective, reliable energy. And we say they're literally taking the power out of the hands of the fossil fuel industry and oligarchs and putting the power in their own hands. So they're making it their own power. So as Hala has already said, we know that stories are incredibly powerful. Show and not tell is something that I often use in my work. And we've really set out to show the inspiring stories from our communities all around the world that we work with. And they're leading the way in the renewable energy revolution. You know, we know, and we're going to hear a lot about this, I'm sure, from the next speakers, we have the technology and we have the blueprints. And what we need now is the political will to make that revolution possible. So this is where our new project, and we launched this at the end of last year, it's called the Hope Hub, and that's where that project comes in. The Hope Hub is a bespoke part of the 350.org website. It's dedicated to showcasing inspiring solution stories from our global partners and beyond. And we're obviously also partnering with Ren21 on your fabulous Reboot the World microsite. And we'll be producing stories together and amplifying those together as well. So it's a really exciting time. So at the moment on the Hope Hub, we've got a variety of stories on there already, from our heat pumps campaign in Canada to the Kajumba villagers in Uganda who are resisting the East Africa crude oil pipeline, or ECOP. And they're installing solar panels in a small village and training local women to maintain them, whilst also giving their children light at night to study and also play as well. So yeah, communities are really at the heart of this, and we want to inspire other communities, other neighbourhoods, villages, others to follow suit, essentially. And we feel that stories play such an important role in that. They play such an important role in that change that we so desperately need. And we also recognise that the media and policymakers need to be able to use real life examples of where community-centred, community-owned, distributed renewable energy projects have worked and where people are thriving. So we really plan to distribute these stories as far and wide as possible as well. And as Hala has also said, we are facing really difficult times at the moment. You know, it's challenging. We're living in an increasingly polarised world. The rise of the far right, who, globally, who continue to favour fossil fuels and put profits over people. We see Reboot the World and the Hope Hub, that they're not just timely, they're also necessary to kind of instill hope and demonstrate that world that we want to see, and that it's actually happening. We know it's possible, and we know that that world can be powered by renewable energy. And as Hala also said, it's also key we get this communication around renewables right. We need to combat and myth bust some of that myths and disinformation out there. So yeah, that's all from me, I think. If you, as Rochelle said, if you have any stories of renewable energy solutions, or you'd like to get in touch with me to discuss anything else, please feel free to reach out. But thanks again, everyone. It's been a real pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you so much, Rachel. Really happy that we are working together, making sure that we get this collective force in order to, without the collective work, we will not be able to actually get these messages and these stories widely seen. I will call on our renewable energy leaders now to step in, starting with Rosilena Lindo, who is formerly was the Energy Secretary of Panama. And she will tell us very briefly on her experience and the change that she was able to create.
Thank you, Hala. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today with this exciting news to reboot the world. And I have to say that I'm full of hope for the hope that 350 has just shown us. And well, yes, I was a former Energy Secretary of Panama. And for the last 5 years, I was working in order to push forward the energy transition agenda to be implemented in Panama. And when we were designing all the different lines of actions and strategies in order to assure, to consolidate that energy transition in Panama, we realized that we need to bring more talent to the implementation of the energy transition. And not only talent, but also we need to start building this new democratization era that has already started, but bring that to the population, bring opportunities to have access to affordable, sustainable technologies for all. And as part of that energy transition implementation, as part of the lines of actions of the universal access strategy, and also part of the line of actions to install the Women and Energy Nexus Roadmap, in 2022, we create something that we call the Solar Champion Training Program, aiming to train indigenous women from the Nove Bugler region in electricity and solar energy, in installation of photovoltaic systems, in preventing and corrective maintenance of these photovoltaic systems. And during the last 3 years, 85 indigenous women graduated already in this subject, and they are between 18 and 55 years old. And in order to select the collaboration of women, we define criteria to find women with low level of education, resident in areas that did not have access to electricity, women who used to live in poverty and now have the ability to install isolated solar systems at their homes and communities, serving as knowledge replicators and empowering their own communities. That training focused in the indigenous region, Nove Bugler, but given the level of access to energy in that part of Panama is only around 4%. They receive also theoretical and practical classes with a methodology adapted to the level of education, based on a training manual, based on education material and training videos in their native language, Navere. The Nove Bugler Solar Champions also were part of a fundamental sessions of women empowerment, personal finance, and entrepreneurship. We give them also examples of women in the sector, opportunity programs to install their own enterprises with new technologies with a comprehensive sustainable approach. And in addition, they receive the necessary tools to install photovoltaic system alone within the all class material that they receive. But also, the graduates are currently part of a group of professionals of the Panamanian Chamber of Solar Energy, and their contact information is made available to all companies and organizations that develop rural electrification projects nationwide. For us, the Solar Champion Training Program gave the Nove Bugler region an opportunity to grow, to give also a voice to women living in rural areas that are eager to be part of this climate fight. But also, I want to show you that one of our next panelists, Lilibet Jimenez, she is one of the voices who is changing her community with renewable energy while opening path of inclusions worldwide. But also I have, before passing the voice to Lilibet, I need to share that here with us, there are several change makers, as Ramon Mendez, as Jimmy Fletcher, who are also part of the process that Panama used to live, installing, implementing, designing the energy transition in our country. And that's what we want to bring with this campaign, how we can learn from each other in order to multiply the positive effect of energy transition.
Thank you, Rosie, so much. Lilibet, I hope you are with us. You were one of the solar champions, and really happy to have you to tell us more about your experience as a solar champion and how that made a difference in your life and other indigenous people who participated as well.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Okay, I'm going to tell a history. For me, it's very, very important history because I have the positive impact with the Solar Champion Program. Lilibet history in her rural community. Lilibet is 25 years old, indigenous and woman from Nove Bugler, Comarca Indigenous Panamania. Historically, in her community, there was was not access to electricity. Nights were dark, house short, were difficult, and education was limited due to the lack of light to study. Currently, the Solar Champions project has changed this situation drastically since the implementation of the Solar Champions project, not only in Lilibet's house, but in many other houses of people living in vulnerable and the poor situation. Solar panels were installed in their homes, which has transformed the life of the woman who participate in the project and those other neighborhoods and the people in the community, since they often ask for help in sharing or other electricity. Before the Solar Champions, darkness, nights were long and dangerous, making daily activities difficult, hard work, education limitation. The children could not study all night, which affect their school performance and health at a risk. Now, life in the home can now cook and perform other household chores more easily and safely. And education, the children can study at night, which has improved their school performance and the future opportunities. Solar energy has not only improved the material living condition of Lilibet and her community, but has also a positive impact on her self-esteem and empowerment. Lilibet is proud to be part of a project that has transformed her community and improved the quality of life for women. In addition, she has discovered her leadership and the project management skill. She has actively participated in the implementation of the solar energy project, and he has learned how to maintain the solar panels. And Lilibet is now a leader and example for another woman. For me, this program has many benefits for the empowered women to the energy access, leadership and participation, in women taking on leadership roles in their communities, making decisions about use and management of solar energy, which strengthens their voice and participation in community life. But despite progress, Solar Champions, for me, it's necessary talk with this message. Despite the progress, Solar Champions project still face significant challenges, such as lack of financing, the need for enjoying the technical training and overcoming cultural and social barriers. But however, the opportunities are enormous, as renewable energy has the potential to transform the life of millions of women around the world, providing them with energy access, development opportunities, and empowerment. Finally, with the Solar Champions projects, are demonstration of the transformative power of renewable energy to empower women and build a more just and sustainable future. By investing in these projects, you are investing in women's development, improving their communities, and building a more equitable world. It is important to continue support and promoting these types of initiative, which not only generate clean energy, but also empower women and transform their life. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lilibet, for providing this first-hand account of your experience and showing us concretely the benefits, especially the economic and social benefits, and how it can really impact the life, especially of women, and creating for them opportunities. We will now listen from another perspective from Ramon Mendez. Ramon, when he was acting as the energy secretary in Uruguay, was able to transform the power sector in Uruguay to almost 100% renewables. And he can briefly tell us about this experience.
Thank you, Hala. And for me, it's an incredible pleasure to be part of this launching of this initiative, which is really crucial. You know that in Uruguay, yes, we had succeeded to make the energy transition in the power sector. In only 5-6 years, we went to 50% of fossil fuels to only 2% of fossil fuels. Nowadays, as you said, we have 98% of renewables in the mix with a combination of different renewable sources, mainly 40% of wind, then solar, biomass, and with a complementation of hydropower. And the interesting point is that we succeeded to show that this is much, much cheaper than the traditional one. In fact, we halved the cost of the electricity production in our country. And much more important, perhaps, than decreasing the overall cost is the stabilization of the cost. We had no consequences of tragic geopolitical events all over the world. So the cost of the electricity is absolutely stabilized in the country, because we are just dependent on paying back the investments. It's a completely different business model that we had to implement. And of course, we had also a tremendous positive impact. You know, we received $6 billion investment in a country with only $50 billion economy size. So this is about 12% of the GDP that we received in investments in only 5 to 6 years. And we created 50,000 new jobs, which is about 3% of the total labor force of the country. So we had a tremendous positive impact, not just on the energy sector itself, but on the economy and the social development as a whole. So what is the most important message that I want to share with you? That first of all, that yes, transition is possible. Yes, it is possible to decarbonize an economy. Yes, this is cheaper. This is the best solution nowadays, either from economic and from the social point of view. So, but the point is that nowadays I'm running a nonprofit organization in order to share our experience mainly in global South country, and our incredible experience is that first of all that what has happened in Uruguay not only is not that much known, but particularly incumbents in different countries where we are operating, they are denying, saying that you cannot go beyond a certain limit of intermittent sources because you cannot control that, or that we still need to have on board fossil fuels because otherwise systems are more expensive. So really denying what is going on. So, and why is this happening? First of all, because we still don't have a clear new narrative based on all the benefits that renewable energy is put into a society. Nowadays, we are no longer in those Paris Agreement where NDCs means just that countries has to make an effort in order to fight against against fossil fuels. Now, we have to change our mind on what our climate advocacy, or what our climate activism should be. As Rachel was saying, we have to stop thinking on fighting against fossil fuels, but we don't have to have a reactive activism. We have to have a proactive activism, trying to help understand what all the benefits of renewables are and building the appropriate ecosystem for things to happen. And so my first two most important takeaways is that first of all, yes, we need new narratives. And for that, this framework that we are launching here and that also 350.org are also organizing, this is absolutely crucial. We have to make everybody understand that if we think about economy, if we think about social, if we think about development, renewables are the best solution at the national level. But second, that in order to do that, we really have to reshape absolutely our power system. In our case, we need a new law, new regulation in order to change the way we plan the system, the way we operate the system, and most importantly, the market design in order to attract investment and in order to make things possible. So thank you, congratulations, and you can count on us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ramon, for reminding us of the possibility and the cost, the economic sense of the transition. We will also hear from James Fletcher, Chairman of the Executive Board of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, and former Minister of Public Service, Information, Broadcasting, Sustainable Development, Energy Science and Technology in St. Lucia, the Caribbean. So we'd like to hear from Jimmy more about his experience in the Caribbean and ongoing, of course.
Thank you, Hala, and good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, wherever you may be, and congratulations to REN21 on this excellent initiative of Reboot the World. It really is timely, like Ramon said, and it's absolutely necessary. As you know, like all small island developing states, or SIDS, as we refer to them, St. Lucia and the other Caribbean countries are very vulnerable to climate change and its impact. And because of that vulnerability, there's a high cost of adaptation, and that high cost is really making it difficult for these countries to meet their sustainable development goals. And our vulnerabilities to climate change are worsened by the fact that we are very reliant on fossil fuels. I think as a region, we are 87% reliant on imported fossil fuels. And that's despite the fact that we are very small and minuscule emitters of global greenhouse gases. I think in total, the Caribbean contributes 0.2%, but we're the ones who feel the effects the most. So really an accelerated transition away from the use of fossil fuels is important for us, not just from a climate change perspective and showing that we are willing to put our money where our mouth is, but also from an economic perspective, because we are paying so much for imported fossil fuels. So when I became minister in St. Lucia in 2011, among the things that I found was that we had 100% reliance on imported fossil fuels, restrictive monopolistic legislation that gave the utility an 80-year monopoly on the generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity from fossil fuel generation, the absence of an independent regulator, and very limited human resource capacity to manage the transition. So we set about creating a new ministry with responsibility for energy, articulated a national energy strategy. Then we convened an international donors meeting, ready to get all of our donors in the same place to see how they could assist us with making that transition possible. We didn't want people cherry picking, on what were the exciting, sexy things, but we said, okay, this is the full range of what we want to do. How can you help us? And that was very important because it helped us to mobilize support from some key partners, like at the time, the Clinton Climate Initiative, Richard Branson's Carbon War Room, that then evolved into Rocky Mountain Institute, and some important bilateral partners like the New Zealand government, the Taiwanese government, the World Bank, and others. We embarked on a complete review of our legislation to try to remove all of those anachronistic and very restrictive pieces of legislation that prevented the transition from taking place. We established an independent multi-sector regulator, removed the monopoly on generation, started installing solar PV systems on government buildings, attracted investment for a wind farm, established a 3.2 megawatt solar farm. Our total energy demand in St. Lucia is 60 megawatts, so that's like 5% of demand. And we secured funding for a massive retrofit of all of our streetlights to LED. At the regional level, just moving forward to what I have responsibility for as the chairman of the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, we've seen uneven regulation and uneven utility business models, cost of energy being very high in the Caribbean. It's around 40 US cents per kilowatt hour, compared with 17 cents, for example, in the US. Financing the transition is expensive and critical because some of the markets are small. Capacity and workforce development is important, and just transition and energy justice are very important considerations. So some of the things that we're looking at the regional level is how do we ensure that there's a coherent, cohesive approach to the transition? How can we establish a regional energy fund to pool our resources? How do we promote cross-border projects and projects where we can aggregate demand so that we can get an even better price? So instead of having just a 5 megawatt solar farm in St. Lucia, can we look at maybe a 30 megawatt solar farm, putting a bid for 30 megawatts of solar across 5 or 6 islands, seeing where there are synergies with water, with health, and how can we establish more robust data and monitoring frameworks, which is something that CCRE has done with its CARICOM Energy Knowledge Hub. And for me, on a personal level, something that's very important is mobilizing and engaging young people. We started something I started a nonprofit called Youth IRE, Youth Innovators for Renewable and Inclusive Energy. And that has been extremely useful in bringing and engaging young people, because they really are the ones with the energy, the passion, and really have a vested interest in ensuring that this transition takes place. So this is really what we've been doing in the Caribbean. There's some good examples. For example, in Jamaica, there's over 60 megawatts of wind. There are microgrids that have been established in the Bahamas and Dominica to try to improve the resilience of their grid to hurricanes. There's geothermal energy development taking place in Dominica at an advanced stage, and also at a earlier stage in St. Kitts, Nevis, St. Lucia, and St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and extremely good leadership by Barbados, led by Prime Minister Mia Mottley, on solar energy, where that country has moved from, in 2001, having just 37 kilowatts of installed solar PV capacity, to now having 100 megawatts of installed solar PV capacity, with 90 megawatts of that being from distributed generation. So a real democratization of the energy sector in Barbados, led by very strong leadership by the Prime Minister. So, you know, there are very many opportunities. We're excited before we go in. The transition is a little slower than we would like it to be, but that's really, again, the reason for having champions to try to act as catalysts to make this happen much quicker. And again, I want to end by thanking REN21 for such an excellent initiative, and hopefully we will see great things coming out of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jimmy. We will pass on to the Q&A, and just to say before that we may also have other renewable energy leaders who want to step up and talk, because this is an initiative that we worked on with people working in really different geographies. We work with people who are doing spreading renewables and working in Africa in very challenging environments. The stories are not gonna, this is just the first batch. We're gonna continue working, documenting all the good work happening, and also working with others to make sure that we are building on each other's work. We're not duplicating. We have similar initiatives with Sunshine Stories, with CAN, and other organizations. WWF are also working on making sure that renewables are part of nature conservation. So without further ado, please feel free to ask questions directly to the leaders, to us, and if there are any other leaders who would like to speak as well, please feel free to take the floor. Thanks.
I think we can start with one question from Mariana. Mariana, would you like to ask your question, or do you want me to read it out?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. It's fantastic to witness this launch today. Congratulations to everybody in REN21, the partners and the marvelous speakers. I have one question. It seems like the world has a fever. We have the fever of climate change, of course, but it seems like since the last couple of months, we are in a tunnel and we don't get to see the lights. So I would like to get a little bit more of your energy and ask you, who would you like if you could get up to the sky? Who will be your dream reader? Who should be reading these stories as a priority? People who can make the most difference.
Yeah, I think I can kick this off because I have a little bit of an idea. You know, I think from me personally, I really find that the REboot stories are a great way in to renewable energy, you know, for people who might not be in the energy space, who might not know a lot about renewable energy, or even for folks who might not fully understand why it's necessary to transition to renewable energy. I think these stories provide real concrete examples of how they benefit people, societies, communities, the economic benefits that they bring. And it kind of breaks it down, makes it digestible to see like concretely what it could look like for a community to be run on renewable energy. So yeah, I would say that these stories are for everyone. And I'll let others chime in here as well.
Rosie, would you like
Yes,
to comment?
yes, I would like to give you a few examples of the persons that I feel that will benefit from it. For example, you have a couple that is looking forward to have a house. Now, with this information that we have the ability to decide what type of sustainable house with sustainable energy, they can choose. You have a old couple with a big family that they are looking forward to save money in order to assure more economic benefits from the energy transition, from the renewable. And mainly what we have here from the general population is that they feel that renewable energy is something very luxury and expensive. And with this type of examples, people are going to be feeling more close and more accessible the renewable energy, the energy transition, and the concepts around how to use and profit from this shift that we want, not only for sustainable energy, but also the way that we think development should go forward.
Excellent.
You have Heather raising her hand.
Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Rosemarin. I'm zooming in from California. I work with an NGO called the Inter-American Clean Energy Institute. And I'm so inspired by this new reboot and all of the stories that the panelists are sharing. My question is, how can we make these stories more searchable and accessible? For example, adding a map and also maybe adding a few search criteria. Because as the panelists illustrate, renewable energy is a solution at multiple scales. It could be a household solution, a community solution, a country solution, or a solution for an entire region, as in the Caribbean. So if I am a decision maker, which goes to the question of audience, right? If I'm a decision maker, whether I'm a homeowner or I'm a community leader or just someone who cares in my community, all the way up to a minister, going into this website, as the stories grow, it's not practical to expect people to scroll through hundreds of stories. So the question is, what are the search criteria that you, the panelists, when you were decision makers, would have found helpful when you were looking for good examples to bring back to whoever you needed to convince, the funders, your co-decision makers, etc.
Want to take that?
I think that we can leave it to the panelists if they'd like to answer.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
I mean, Heather, for us, we will make sure that, technically we can make it possible for whomever wants to search, as you say. This is a very valid point because, yeah, they will, policymakers or, certain audiences may not be able to scroll through everything. So we'll make sure that there will be a search option that will take you to whatever kind of search you might have. And we're happy to discuss further with you to kind of digest the ask and make sure that this is the purpose of this, to get your feedback and see how we can improve things along the way. I have a lot of hands. Rana, did you want to come in?
Yeah, very quickly, because I think it's building very much on Heather, your comment also, but also the question before from Mariana. I think the reality is we need to convince many players and many different types of players. And we're going to reach them only if whatever story we're going to tell is relevant to their realities and their concerns and their success factors, etc. So I think this is basically also the part where reaching them means different stories. Reaching them means different articulation of the stories, but it also means like building on different types of messengers and voices who have the credibility I identified, etc. And I think this is clearly something which we need to keep in mind. I think it will also help on some of the indicators and search criteria which you're asking for, Heather. It is also, and I think Hala and Rochelle have also underlined it, the idea is also to specifically position this basically in media, press, social media, at conferences, etc. And obviously, depending on where we're targeting this here, That's also something to you see where the articulation and the choices of story will be different. So I would probably choose between what target audience do you want to convince? So are we speaking about governments? If there's like house owners, etc., but then also the benefits of renewables.
Thank you, Rana. I see Sergi has been having his hand, and then I'll go to Jimmy. Sergi?
Yes. Hello. Good morning, good evening, whatever. I'm here connected from Catalonia in Spain. My question was for Ramon. It was written down in the chat. Basically, was to ask if this shift to renewable energy in Uruguay has driven a shift to electrification of other sectors besides power, because that's like, we could say that it's already a great challenge, and it's a great success to have 100% almost renewable electricity. But then is when the other part of the challenge starts, which is fossil fuels in transport, fossil fuels in heating, fossil fuels in agriculture, and so on. So I would be interested in listening if that's a process that is ongoing in Uruguay, thanks to the electricity change.
Ramon, are you around, or maybe he was dropped off? But I'm going to try to make sure he comes in again and to respond to your question. Sorry, Sergi, but I don't see him with us.
Yeah,
but
He's not in the call.
We'll make sure that he gets the question. I'm trying to ask him to go back in.
In the
James?
meantime, yeah, I think James and Rosalina wanted to address the previous question.
Sure.
Thanks. Yeah, just to say, Heather, that was an awesome question, because in going through the stories myself, not just mine, but all of the others, that's something that struck me, that in there are so many different nuggets, so many different things that appeal. So for example, if you were to ask me from St. Lucia, what would be the one thing that I would point to as being very important for our success, and I'll tell you partnerships, that we were able to establish partnerships with development partners that helped us bridge the gap where our human resource constraint was. We were able to develop a really good relationship with the utility company, because we recognized that, I think I mentioned, we couldn't throw out the baby with the bathwater, and that we needed the utility company as a partner in this. And we had seen examples in other countries in the Caribbean where an antagonistic relationship developed between the government and the utility company, and that ended up very disastrously, to the point of litigation and the government having to pay money. So you're right. I mean, in each of these stories, there are one or two nuggets in there that might resonate with people differently, and I think we have to find a way to extract those so that they're easily indexed, they're easily searchable, and that the people who need to hear about them can pick that up and can move with it. So it's going to be a challenge, I'm sure, but REN21 is up to that challenge, and I'm sure they can distill those nuggets. But that is such an excellent question, because I think it really speaks to how do we make these stories be just more than a story, but something that somebody can pull from and see, okay, yeah, I can identify with this. Thanks.
Thank you.
Exactly. This is the intention. The intention is exactly this blueprint, and to learn from all of you, because there are different approaches. The approach in St. Lucia about really working with a utility company, working with partnerships to drive things was key. And a key lesson about continuity as well, because with government change, there are leaders behind renewable energy. And as Jimmy always says, it needs champions. Renewables needs champions who have the patience and the passion to drive nationally and regionally. Rosie?
Yes, I just wanted to add that in order for the message to arise at the level of government, this is something that REN21 is very expert. They have been working together with different governments worldwide in order to bring that message, and will be something similar with this campaign as well. The message is going to be there and delivered in the different platforms and scenarios in order to help us, the different stakeholders, to learn from those lessons. But also I want to address one of the questions of Paula. regarding the community focus and how we involve with the community in order to assure the implementation of solar champions. And I have to say that this idea, the origin was when we went to the Navarre community in order to have discussion on how to build the energy transition. It's not my idea. It's an idea that was bring to the table when we were analyzing the creation of a new governance around the energy transition. And after that, every single line of actions that we developed in the Panamanian energy transition agenda was created with the community, with the different stakeholders, including civil society, private sector, different organizations, in order to assure everybody has a voice. And in order to maintain that, we create something that we call the Energy Transition Commission and the different committees that includes also gender equality and includes also universal access to energy. So there is a new way of understanding and finding the path to bring the different ideas, the willingness of the public sector, of the private sector, and for sure the community is going to be present if we want these programs, these different way of administration for the energy transition be long for the next 20, 30, 100 years. We need to be sure that we are providing the tools for a better communication, better understanding, and better decision making.
Thank you, Rosie. I think we ran out of time, but I just wanted to say thank you very much, Heather, for the suggestions. It's very useful, and we'll take note of it and act on it. Also, Sergi, for you, I think maybe invite, for NIMBY, invite the leaders to some of them who can kind of explain how important it is for distributed renewables, for people locally, etc., and all the benefits it can bring. You can contact us, Rochelle, or we can put you in touch with the leaders, and you can reach them from the website as well. So I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining us today. Thanks for everyone who contributed. Shout out to all the partners who helped us with this. Alex, Carrie, videos, the website. We still have a lot of work to do. But we promise that we will keep evolving and improving and hearing what the need is from the community and how we can enable everyone to become messengers and leaders for them to be able to really drive the change with a positive narrative for a renewable-based economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.